Beware the inflaming factors. Low-grade emotions continually affect our thinking, and they originated from our own impulses. For instance, the desire for pleasing and comforting thoughts. High-grade emotion, however, comes at certain moments, reaches an explosive pitch, and is generally sparked by something external. A person who gets under our skin or particular circumstances, the level of arousal is higher and our attention is captured completely. The more we think about the emotion, the stronger it gets, which makes us focus even more on it, and so on and so forth. Our minds turn on into the emotion, and everything reminds us of our anger or excitement. We become reactive because we are unable to bear the tension this brings. High-grade emotion usually culminates in some rash action with disastrous consequences. In the middle of such an attack, we feel possessed, as if a second limbic self has taken over. It is best to be aware of these factors so that you can stop the mind from tunneling and prevent the religion action that you will always come to regret. You should also be aware of high-grade irrationality in others to either get out of their way or help bring them back to reality. Trigger points from early childhood. In early childhood, we are at our most sensitive and vulnerable. Our relationship to our parents had a much greater impact on us the further back in time we go. The same could be said for any other public experience. These vulnerabilities and wounds remain buried deep within our minds. Sometimes we try to repress the memory of these influences if they happen to be negative, grave fears or humiliations. Sometimes, however, they are associated with positive emotions, experiences of love and attention that we continually want to relive. Later in life, in a personal event will trigger memory of this positive or negative experience, and with the release of chemicals or hormones associated with the memory. Take, for example, a young man who had a distant, narcissistic mother. As an infant or child, he experienced Hakonis abandonment, and to be abandoned must mean he was somehow unworthy of our love. Or similarly, a new sibling on the scene caused his mother to give him much less attention, which he equally experienced as abandonment. Later in life, in a relationship, a woman might hint at disapproval of some trait or action of his, all of which is part of a healthy relationship. This will hit a trigger point. She is noticing his flaws, which he imagines precedes her abandonment of him. He feels a powerful rush of emotion, a sense of imminent betrayal. He doesn't see the source of this. It is beyond his control. He overreacts, accuses, withdraws, all of which leads to the very thing he feared, abandonment. His reaction was in some reflection in his mind, not to the reality. This is the height of irrationality. The way to recognize this in yourself and in others is by noticing behavior that is suddenly childish in its intensity and seemingly out of character. This could center on any key emotion. It could be fear of losing control, of failure. In this case, we react by withdrawing from the situation and the presence of others, like a child curling up into a ball. A sudden illness brought on by the intense fear will conveniently cause to have to leave the scene. He could be loved, desperately searching to recreate a close parental or sibling relationship in the present, triggered by someone who vaguely reminds us of the lost paradise. It could be extreme mistrust, originating from an authority figure in early childhood who disappointed or betrayed us, generally the father. This often triggers a certain rebellious attitude. The great danger here is that, in misreading the present and reacting to something in the past, We create conflict, disappointments, and the mistrust, and it only strengthens the one. In some ways, we are programmed to repeat our experience in the present. Our only defense is when it is happening. We can recognize any trigger point by the experience of emotions that are unusually primal, more uncontrollable than normal. They trigger tears, deep depression, or excessive hope. People under the spell of these emotions will often have a very different tone of voice and a body language, as if they were physically living a moment from what they die. In the midst of such an attack, we must struggle to detach ourselves and contemplate the possible source, the wound in early childhood, and the parents it has locked us into. This deep understanding of ourselves and our vulnerabilities is a key step toward become rational. Sudden gains or losses, sudden success or winnings can be very dangerous. Neurologically, chemicals are released in the brain that give a powerful jolt of arousal or end energy, leading to the desire to repeat this experience. It can be the start of any kind of addiction and manic behavior. Also, when gains come quickly, we tend to lose sight of basic wisdom that true success, to really last, must come through hard work. We acquire feelings of grandiosity. We become especially resistant to anyone who tries us and warns us. They don't understand, we tell ourselves. Because this cannot be sustained, we experience an inevitable fall, which is all the more painful, leading to the depression part of the cycle. Although gamblers are the most prone to this, it equally applies to the business people during bubbles and to people who gain certain attention from the public. Unexpected losses and a string of losses equally create irrational reactions. The solution is simple. Whenever you experience unusual gains or losses, that is precisely the time to step back and counterbalance them with some necessary pessimism or optimism. Be actually aware of sudden success and attention. They are not built on anything that lasts, and they have an addictive pull. And the fall is always painful, rising pressure. The people around you generally appear sane and in control of their lives, but put any of them in stressful circumstances. With the pressure rising, and you will see a different reality. The cool mask of self-control comes off. They suddenly lash in anger, reveal a paranoid streak, and become hypersensitive or open, petty. Under stress or any drag, the most primitive parts of the brain are aroused and engaged, overwhelming people's reasoning powers. In fact, stress or tension can reveal flaws in people that they have carefully concealed from you. It is often wise to observe people in such moments, precisely as a way to judge their true character. Whenever you notice rising pressure and stress levels in your life, you must watch yourself carefully. Monitor any signs of unusual brittleness or sensitivity, such suspicions, fears disproportionate to the circumstances. Observe with as much as detachment as possible, finding time and space to be alone. You need the perspective. Never imagine that you are someone who can withstand rising stress without emotional language. It is not possible, but through self-awareness and reflection, you can prevent yourself from making decisions you will come to regret. The group effect. Being in a group does not stimulate independent reasoning, but rather the intense desire to belong. It is often best to avoid the group setting if possible in order to maintain your reasoning powers, or to enter such moments with the maximum skepticism. Demagogues in politics or media try to stir a continuous sense of panic, urgency, or outrage. They must keep the emotional level high. The defense is simple. Consider your reasoning powers. your ability to think for yourself, the most precious possession. Resent any kind of intrusion upon your independent mind by others. When you feel you are in the presence of demagogue, become doubly wary and analytical. The irrational simply changes its look and its fashions. Rationality is something to be acquired by individuals. First and foremost, it is existence through history and in all classes of people of high rationality, the types who have made the progress possible. Warren Buffett, to name but a few, all of these types share certain qualities: a realistic appraisal of themselves and their weaknesses, a devotion to truth and reality, a tolerant attitude toward people, and the ability to reach goals that they have set. The second factor is that almost all of us, at some point in our lives, have experienced moments of greater rationality. This often comes within what we shall call maker's mindset. We have a project to get done, perhaps with a deadline. The only emotion we can afford is excitement and the energy. Other emotions simply makes it impossible to concentrate. Because if we have to get results, we become exceptionally practical. We focus on the work, our mind calm, our ego not intruding. If people try to intrude or in practice what the emotions we resented, these moments, as fleeting as few weeks or hours, reveal the original self that is waiting to come out. It just requires some awareness and some practice. Know yourself thoroughly. The emotional self thrives on ignorance. The moment you're aware of how it operates and it dominates you is the moment it loses its hold on you and can be tamed. Therefore, your first step toward the rational is always inward. You want to catch the emotional self in action. For this purpose, you must reflect on how you operate under stress. What particular weaknesses come out in such moments? The desire to please, to bully or control, deep levels of mistrust. Look at your decisions, especially those that have been ineffective. Can you see a pattern, an underlying insecurity that impels them? Examine your strengths. What makes you different from other people? This will help you decide upon goals that match with your long-term interest and that is aligned with your skills. By knowing and valuing what marks you as different, you will be able to resist the pull of a group bias and effect. Examine your emotions to their roots. You're angry, let the feelings that are from it and think about it. Was it triggered by something seemingly trivial or petty? That is a sure sign that something or someone else is behind it. Perhaps a more uncontrollable emotion is at the source, such as envy or paranoia. You need to look at this square in the eye. Dig below any trigger points to see where they started. For these purposes, it might be wise to use a journal in which you record your self-assessments with the roots of this objectivity. Your greatest standard is your ego and how it makes you unconsciously maintain illusions about yourself. These may be comforting in the moment, but in the long run, they make you defensive and unable to learn or progress. Find a neutral position from which you can observe your actions with a bit of detachment and even humor. Soon, all of this will become second nature, and when your emotional self suddenly raises its head in some situation, you will see it as it is happen and be able to step back and find a neutral position. Increase your reaction time. This will come through practice and repetition. When some event or interaction requires a response, you must train yourself to step back. This could mean physically moving yourself to places where you can be alone and not feel any pressure to respond. Or it could mean writing the angry mail but not sending it. You sleep on it for a day or two. You do not make phone calls or communicate while feeling some sudden emotion, particularly resentment. If you find yourself rushing to commit to people, to hire or be hired by them, step back and give it a day. Cool the emotions down. The longer you can take, the better, because perspective comes with time. Consider this like a resistance training. The longer you can resist reacting, the more mental space you have for actual reflection, and the stronger your mind will become. Accept people as facts. The problem is that we are continually judging people. We think they are something that they are not. We want to change them. We want them to think and act a certain way. Most often the way we think and act. And because this is not possible, because everyone is different, we are continually frustrated and upset. Instead, see other people as phenomena and neutral, as comets or plants. They simply exist. They come in all varieties. Making life rich and interesting, work with what you give you, instead of resisting and trying to change them. Make understanding people as fun game, the solving of puzzles. It is a part of the human comedy. Yes, people are irrational, but so are you. Make you acceptance and human nature as radical as possible. This will calm you down and help you observe people more dispassionately, understand them on a deeper level. You will stop projecting your own emotions onto them. All of this will give you more balance and calmness, more mental space for thinking. Find the optimal balance of thinking and emotion. We cannot divorce emotions from thinking. The two are completely intertwined, but there is inevitably a factor. Some people more clearly governed by emotions than others. The horses are emotional nature, continue impelling us to move. This horse has tremendous energy and power, but without the rider, it cannot be guided. It is wild, subject to predators, and are continually heading into trouble. The rider is in our thinking cell. Through training and practice, it holds the reins and guides the horse, transforming this power energy into something productive. The one without the other is useless. Without the rider, no direct movement or purpose. Without the horse, no energy, no power. In most people, the horse dominates and the rider is weak. Instead of being slaves to this energy, we channel it. That is the essence of rationality. As an example of this idea in action, trying to maintain a perfect balance between skepticism, rider, and the curiosity, horse. The two can coexist. It is a balance that all geniuses possess. You have fathers in your own life who were absorbed in a project, time flying by, and experiencing occasional bursts of excitement as you make discoveries or progress in your work. There are other places as well. Being able to tame the emotional self leads to an overall calmness and clarity. In this state of mind, you are less consumed by petty conflicts or the considerations. Your actions are more effective, which also leads to less turmoil. You have the immense satisfaction of mastering yourself in a deep way. You have a more mental space to be creative. You feel more in control.